kind of went about building my main set of heroes. I did look at, what traditional team makeup was like, whether it was more of a Justice League bent or not, or even League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, that sort of thing. Which, again, I really wish League of Extraordinary Gentlemen was much more prevalent than the Watchmen bullshit, but I digress. When it came to Uplift Protocol, I was like, yes, I definitely wanted to have my Superman stand in. So, Eliza is like basically the center of that universe in terms of not so much like everybody will agree with her type of thing, but more like that genuine sense of hope and optimism. I want that to permeate my setting. So that's kind of like how I see her. She's like the barometer of like how that setting is doing and how she affects people near her. And when it comes to, I'm not really going to have a Batman stand-in my setting because, again, I don't really feel any kind of connection to Batman type characters. I did enjoy him in the Adam West '60s series, and also in the Justice League animated series. As long as he was with other people, I was fine with them. But him on his own, I don't really click with hero archetypes like what he's supposed to be. Kind of like the more like street level grounded type of guy. Like when I read superhero fiction or comics, I want to see like the big cosmic wars, like the Green Lantern type of setups. I don't mind having space cops, which the Defender Corps is pretty much kind of like space cops and a few other things. And but to get back to the team makeup, everybody has different levels of powers and what they can do. And that's also the reason why Earth is a K2 civilization. So that way, people like, say, General Whitehouse can help stand toe-to-toe with superheroes because of tech. And I gave him more of a, like a Perry White meets, like kind of like a Sergeant Slaughter kind of setup, but not so much that he's killing everybody, but more like he's like that a slightly grumpy guy, but that's only in certain combat situations. On the other hand, I kind of wanted to be he's another type of mentor character that's going to be teaming up with Eddie fairly often to kind of help the other one out with his Terran Alliance career and everything else. So it kind of might mirror a little bit of not really. Well, there's a little bit of aspects of Sailor Moon in this in terms of dashing heroics and everything, but this whole series is kind of like an amalgamation of everything I've ever really enjoyed as a kid. It has its major themes, which family, self-sacrifice, optimism, heroism, something to aspire to. But yeah, the team dynamics, I did take a little bit from Justice League, but when it comes to superhero setups, I find it's kind of like a wheel where the sidecast is affected by the main team, and in this case, I very much took Eliza's sidecast like a mixture of Babylon 5 and the Daily Planet, and some relationships are going to mirror some of that in my favorite shows, and maybe a bit here and there of Stargate, because I did like that kind of like random adventure aspect where every time they go through a portal there might be something completely different on the other side. So I put that in there too for Uplift Protocol. It's all sorts of fun. Yeah, it's kind of like even a little bit of Power Rangers too. Like the team is pretty much on the same page most of the time, but I am going to develop their relationships out even further. Like again, we're only on technically book 1. The prequel book was more like kind of like the setup, the big major sweeping things that happened while some of the characters were growing up, and to kind of set up some of the background. So, but if you have a long running series, you got plenty of time to basically, okay, for this book, we're going to concentrate more on this, like this A plot. There's going to be a couple of little B plot things woven throughout that'll eventually be solved in later books. But I do like, with every book setup, I do like to solve some of the threads in terms of like, they hit a beat where it's like, oh, so that's what was going on. I like offering that in some of the Uplift setup. So while I might put some mysteries out there, I also like to give readers a little wink and a nod, like here's where some of this is going, that sort of setup. Uh, let's see. So if Eliza's kind of like the de facto leader, which to me, women with leadership roles kind of act differently than guys. I even saw it in my military service and a few other things. Like, because I even showed that in issue 23, like how the guys kind of take charge differently. Like they might ask each other a little bit of stuff, but say like General Whitehouse will take over some things during certain parts, and then he'll ask for input, like, oh hey, over there or over here. They're kind of like lightning quick, like boom boom boom, make decision, go for it. Women in leadership roles, they like to kind of examine the options. They usually ask for even more input most times. But with Eliza as a leader, I kind of wanted her to be not like carefree to the point where she's like extremely absent-minded, but she definitely has an idea of how to do a bit of leadership, basically because of her own father. But again, men and women act differently in leadership roles. It's just like a psychological fact that I've noticed. Even when I was put in a leadership role, even with say some projects or even a little bit here and there with the military, I would often ask for a lot more input from other NCOs, or like, hey, how should I approach this? Because I think in some ways leadership can be learned, but some people just naturally have more leadership qualities. There's like sometimes some people just give off a more identifiable, like, I'm the leader kind of vibe than other people. Which again, I even asked my brother these things because he's a well-adjusted leader, cares for his men, and all that stuff. So whenever you see some more combat kind of military stuff in Uplift Protocol, that was me asking my brother for some input, because in my own military career, I didn't see combat. I basically got to guard nondescript buildings, help drunken shipmates, that sort of thing. I got to look at all the canines, yes. So, you gotta go by with what you know, but you can also, again, ask friends and family, like, hey, what's your opinion on this, or what's your POV on this? When it comes to Uplift Protocol, I just pull in all the influences and the things that I grew up on into this whole entire setup. So you don't always have to have a traditional, like, this one's obviously the alpha, beta, all that stuff role with the superhero setup. It's up to you to figure out, like, hey, how do you want to have this dynamic? I would say, if anything, Eddie's kind of like the scout. General Whitehouse is more of like the military tactical mentor. Let's see, Arthon is basically, he's the second in command, but he will, just like that in the prologue novel, I put in Star and Cooper have more of a shield mentality, protect, 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 but Arthrodon has more of a, he's got to be a sword. He has to go on the offensive for his team. And so Ritark does that too, since they're both paired together, to give a certain more fun aspect of that. And again, I decided that Eliza mostly has all her your outside of Earth memories intact now, because that was something that I wouldn't be able to keep up forever. and it was mostly prevalent in the prologue novel because you know they weren't as close to convergence as they are now with the main series really kicking off. So she does realize a whole lot of things now, but some names and faces are still a little bit blurred to her. So that way, the compromise portion of Uplift doesn't catch on as quickly. So that's the thing I think about with some of these things. It's like, if one thing happens over here, how does something else affect it over in another portion? Again, all this writing stuff, it'll, as long as you keep writing, you'll eventually pick up the basics. Mechanical stuff isn't as important as just getting your feet off the ground. Like I said, just keep writing. Stuff will develop over time, just like cross country running. Your lungs will get better. You'll be able to maintain momentum, that sort of thing. I'll see you guys next time.